Hi, this is Andy Runyon. I'm a strategic consultant with Starfish. We have had some institutions ask for some examples of how the analytics tools can be used in a day-to-day situation for staff on their campus. So this example I'm going to share with you today is how a department chair or dean might use the analytics tools to come up with some information that could be used in a program review process. In order to help, I have put together a spreadsheet that should be posted along with this video that is somewhat a worksheet for a program review process, along with a set of instructions as to how you would go through in the actual analytics tools and do filters to be able to come up with the information to complete the information for the academic program review analysis spreadsheet that you see here. When you then print it out, you get just the spreadsheet itself and can have some good data for your academic program, including information about overall outcomes, comparisons on gender and race, as well as what are some of the challenge courses and what are overall program grade code trends for your program within the institution. So just looking down through, if I walk down through the spreadsheet, it's actually set up to walk directly from one piece of input to another. So I can start off with a date, institution. The watch list date is actually the last set of data that we have received at Hobsons and have included in your analytics tools. So jumping over to the analytics dashboard, I am looking first of all at the Student Explorer as the collection within the system, and looking at the Key Factors dashboard, which is the first of the dashboards on the list. Again, in this particular screen, it can show completion or retention for students at your institution with or without a set of filters. Right now, I have no additional filters selected, so the information at the bottom is showing me all of the information about the institution and its students at this watch list date, which for this set of sample data that we have is May 2nd of 2018. So jumping back to my spreadsheet, I put in the watch list date of May 2nd, 2018. This would tell us that the term that this information was drawn from was May or spring of 2018 at Starfish University. So you notice one of the first things that the spreadsheet asks for is institutional averages and program averages for completion, retention, and how many students are enrolled. And for this particular example, I came up with 21,676 students at the institution and 684 students in this Bachelor in Computer Science program that we have decided to analyze. As I move across the table to the instructions, you will see I've provided the collection that you should be looking at, what dashboard you can use to get that particular information, and what filters would need to be applied. So for the first set of institutional averages, I'm going to Student Explorer to the Key Factors dashboard, and I don't need any filters applied to get overall completion and retention and the number of students enrolled at the institution. Let's go back and take a look at the dashboards. So I have no filters applied other than I am looking at completion versus retention. So the information at the bottom is for the entire institution. Here's the number of students at 21,676. And I can see the completion score, on average, 45% of students complete within 4 years. The retention score of 73% tells me that 73% of students are retained 12 to 18 months after the end of the current term. So after the end of spring 2018, 73% of students are predicted to be retained at the institution based on the past history of students. So that was the information I needed for the first row of my spreadsheet. For the second row, the program averages, I stay in the same collection, the same dashboard, but now I need to add a filter of program. And again, I'm looking at computer science. So let's go back to the dashboards. And Student Explorer in the key factors still, but now I'm going to come up here on the top right and add a filter for the program. So I select program and I'm going to scroll down, or I could do a search, but I'm going to scroll down to computer science, select that, and apply that filter. That now changes the right-hand side to show the distribution of students and the key factors for that particular group of students. Down on the bottom here, the filtered summary shows me information about that group of students that I have filtered. The breadcrumbs up here at the top show me that I was successful at adding the program filter of computer science, and the graphs are still looking at completion because I have not moved this particular radio button. So the number of students in the computer science program is 684, and their completion and retention scores are shown up here at the top. Completion score is 49%, retention score is 76%, as compared to 45 and 73 for the overall institution. So you can see our computer science students are doing slightly better in both completion and retention. If I want more information about the computer science students, I can look across the bottom here and see how long it's been since they started, how many credits they've attempted on average, and lots of information about this particular group of students. So going back to my spreadsheet, I'm going to take back 684 students in the program with completion scores of 49 and 76%. Going back to the spreadsheet, I can see 684 students I have enrolled. I've entered that in the spreadsheet, 49 and 76%. The spreadsheet then also allows me to put in some general comments about that information. And here, as department chair, I looked at it and said, ours is a relatively large program at the institution, makes up 3% of all students, and our retention and completion is slightly higher than the average. And I wanted to make a note too, that admissions requirements for this program are tighter than the average for the institution, which might be part of why that our students are above average for those students at the institution. Shifting on down then, I wanted to do a comparison of gender and see how gender roles play out within our degree program. So for the institution, I came up with that information for females and males, and I did the same thing for our program. And as you can see over here on the instructions on the right, I'm still within the collection of Student Explorer, key factors being the dashboard, but now I've got some filters that I need to add, male and female. So I'm going to have to look at each one of those separately because I can do a filter for male, then one for female, then one for not specified or unknown, as it says within the dashboards. So let's take a look back at the dashboards and see how I came up with that information. I'm going to get rid of my filter for program by clicking this X up here next to the program filter. And so now, again, I am looking at all students across the institution, and that again at the bottom gives me the total number of students. I want to look at gender, so I'm going to go to the filter for gender and first look at female students. When I apply that filter, that gives me information on the number of female students, which is 11,604. And I now see that my female students at the institution have a completion score of 48% and a retention score of 74% as compared to the overall institution numbers of 45% and 73%. So females overall do a bit better at my institution, and I can then transfer that information back to my spreadsheet with the total number of females within the institution as a whole. I can do the same thing for males and not specified to get the outcomes for males at the institution, 42% and 72%, which is slightly lower than average. And I have a very small number of students that have not provided their gender in the data that we have. So that's allowed me to complete this next row. for the institution as a whole, I now need to get that information for my program. So let me go back to the dashboards, and I still have female selected as a filter. I'm going to go back to the program filter and put back in my filter for computer science. So I will select that and apply the filter. And again, at the top here now, I have female selected and computer science selected. So in any of the filtered information and across the bottom on the filtered summary, it's going to show me about females in computer science. So there I'm going to draw that information out that there are 99 female students in computer science off the bottom. Their completion score and retention score are 53% and 76% respectively. I can then go back to my spreadsheet and fill that information in as well. So my program is computer science, 53% completion and 76% retention for the 99 females that I have. Looking at males just quickly, again, I can change my filter, change the gender from female to male, and I have to uncheck female as well and apply that filter. And now I have the total number of males with their completion score and retention score that I can include in my worksheet, as you can see I've done here. Note that there are no students that do not have a gender listed within the system within the computer science program, so I just left those blank. I can also do a race ethnicity comparison for my program. In this case, I've chosen to do students of color versus white students. If you would have an interest in any particular race that we include within the system, obviously you could add your own lines to the spreadsheet and make comparisons there and include those on the academic program review analysis spreadsheet if you would like. So let's go back to the dashboards and see how we would go about looking at race. Now I'm going to get rid of the filter for gender just by coming up here to the breadcrumb, clicking the X next to male, and that deletes that filter. I'm going to keep computer science overall, but now we are going to look at a filter for race and ethnicity. And in this case, the comparison that I'm making for this particular spreadsheet is all students of color as opposed to white students. Quickest way for me to do that is check this box up at the top, which selects all of the items, and then come down and unselect white students, which then gives me all races with the exception of white. So I'm going to apply that, and now the information that I have shows me 180 white students in the computer science program, and I have their completion scores and retention scores off of the filtered key factors. I can then take that back to my spreadsheet and plug that in for students of color, with a completion score for the program of 43%, 72%, and 180 students, which is what I filtered on. So this actually is looking at all races, not white students. To change back and look at that for just the white students, I'll go back to the race filter. I can use the select all to unselect those and select the white students, apply that, and now I can see 504 students with a 51% completion score and 77% retention score. I can then take that back and plug it into my spreadsheet, and I've completed the program section for a race and ethnicity comparison. To get the institutional information, I'm going to walk through those same steps, just going back, and instead of having computer science selected, I can delete that filter, and now I can get information for the institution as a whole, which has 15,803 white students with 47% completion score, 75% completion score. And again, to get the students of color, I would need to go back and select all the students' races of color and deselect the one for white students. You can walk through that and complete the information for the race ethnicity comparison and make any kind of comments you might have about the data that you see there. Are there gaps for either gender or race and ethnicity within your program that might be different than those at the institution as a whole? Some things to consider as you're going through a program analysis. The last two areas that I want to walk through was looking at courses within your degree program. And first of all, we're taking a look at what challenge courses do you have within the degree program of computer science. So here I've provided the dashboard, which would be Course Explorer. The summary of courses would be the dashboard that you would need to look at, and you would need to filter by program. This gives you some steps in the comment section here that I would suggest that you use. Because we give you history for courses, I would suggest you filter on just the last few terms, and I'm suggesting 2 years. We want to filter on the program of study, and we're going to look at all programs within that dashboard as I'm going to show you. So let's take a look. We're going to jump over to the dashboard and apply those filters. So I'm going to get rid of the one for race because that's not what we're looking at here. We're going to come down, and instead of Student Explorer, we're going to look at the Course Explorer collection. And the dashboard that I suggested that we should use instead of course outcomes is the summary of courses. And I particularly like that one because it gives you a list of all of the courses being taken by students within that major. You will note that I still have a filter selected of program in computer science. So we're going to stick with that, and I'm going to look at the list of courses being taken by computer science students. If I leave the top 15, it would only show me the top enrolled courses within that degree program. Which you can do, look and see here, there's lots of degree-specific courses, and I can look across and see how many enrollments, which would be the number of records, how many students in those enrollments. So if students took more than one, there would be a higher number of records than students. I can see how many students are getting C or better in that course in the computer science program among the majors, withdrawal rates, retake rates, and lots of good information about the courses within the computer science program. Instead of just looking at the top 15 though, I'm going to take a look at all of the courses that my computer science majors are taking. So I'm going to click the radio button that says all, and you're going to see now some of the same courses, but you're going to see a much more detailed list of all of the courses that students in the computer science area are taking. Top 15 are going to stay the same, but I can now see things like 112 of those students have taken astronomy, currently for a general education requirement. My computer science course, 97 students have taken it, with 2 students repeating that course apparently. I've got a number of music students within my computer science program as well, taking music. So gen ed courses as well as program-specific courses that students are taking. What I'm interested in though is the challenge courses. So I'm going to go through and sort by this column of C or better. And in order to sort by that column, I'm going to click on these arrows underneath the title of that column. If I click once, it's going to show me that column in ascending order, sorry. If I click on it twice, it's going to show it to me in descending order, and the third click would actually unsort by that column. But since I'm interested in the challenge courses, I am going to show it in ascending order. So you notice I have a number of courses that maybe one student has taken and was unsuccessful. So that would give a 0% C or better rate. So I'm really not interested in those where only one student has taken a course. With the number of students I have in this program, I would be interested in much larger enrollments. So I may have to scroll down a ways to see some courses to get beyond those where students aren't being that successful, and only very few students are taking them. So the first one I come to that has somewhat a sizable enrollment, 45 students have taken this Algebra 101 course, which is probably a developmental education requirement for students coming in that don't have a strong enough background in mathematics. So you'll notice 45 students have taken it, 56 attempts at that course. 30.36% of those students got a C or better. So we're having 70% of students not being successful in that class. I'm going to go ahead and list that as one of my challenge courses. True, it's a developmental course, and maybe that impacts students coming in, but apparently is impacting majors that are taking my program. So I'm going to come back to my spreadsheet and note that I listed Math 1226 with 190 students. Apparently, I went down further in the list. My apologies. Let's look on down the list and find that other math course that I listed first. Okay, still relatively small numbers of students. Sales, animal biology may be a gen ed course that some of my students are taking. But let's scroll on down. We're going to find the first course here that I listed in the degree program. So here's Algebra 201, pretty sizable, 489 students with 661 records, and only about half the students are getting C or better. Again, these are students in the computer science program, so they are students in my major taking this course, as well as this Math 135, Math 06. So what I'm doing is taking information off of this spreadsheet, the number of records, number of students, percent C or better rate, and percentage withdrawal for some of the challenging courses. Some of those were students getting low rates of C or better. Transferring that to my spreadsheet to show what are some courses within our program or that our students are taking that I really need to be thinking about. Notice that I've coded those courses as either general education courses, program-specific courses, or in this case, a support course. These might be ones that I would want to dig into further to look at what are grade distributions within those courses, what prerequisites do students have to take to get in that course, so I could look and think about ways to work with the curriculum, work with our faculty to try to improve success rates for students within the degree program. One of the things that I want to mention too is an additional filter that I needed to add but haven't at this point yet. So let me go back and do that. Rather than looking all the way back to 2009 at the courses students are taking, we want to actually look at the terms for the data that we want to see within this spreadsheet. And I neglected to do that before. So we're going to limit this list down to the last about 2 years. So I'm going to go back to fall of 2016. So I've got fall of 16 through spring of 18. And I'm going to apply that change, which is going to change the courses that I see on this list and include only more recent, more relevant courses for students in the program. So as I scroll down the list, I'm still going to see those that are just 1 or 2 courses, 1 or 2 students taking those courses. And let's find one. Here is Math 07 with 144 students and 190 records. And if I go back to my spreadsheet, that's the one that I selected. There it is, Math 12276. So again, my goal is to get recent courses, as I said here in the instructions, but failed to follow myself. But looking at the last few terms, filter on the program of study, we ensured that the All Radio button was selected to look at all courses as opposed to those just top enrollment courses. We clicked the C or better column to sort, and we were looking at the courses that were the largest challenge group for our degree program. So going back to the spreadsheet or to the workbook, here on the dashboard, we're looking at all the courses that students in computer science were taking in those terms. Let's look at the last area that we selected, program grade code trends. So now we want to go to the course trends collection, grade code trend by year dashboard. So let's go back and look at, instead of Course Explorer, Course Trends. And now instead of grade code trend, we do want to look at grade code trend by year, but we're going to get rid of these term codes to be able to look at any of the grade codes over time. Again, we still have computer sciences students selected. So these would be the grade codes that computer science students are taking over time. So you notice the number of A's. I can select using the radio buttons in front of each of the grade codes. I can go A's, A minus, B, B minus, and on down the list. Now I'm going to look first of all at all of the C or better grade codes. You notice I have selected C minus as a C or better because for our students, C minus is still passing. And you notice I'm seeing very steady trends in the number of C or better courses that these students are taking. So what I'm going to put on my spreadsheet is that there's very little change in grade code trends for C or better. Notice I did the same for not C or better. Let's come back to my dashboard and unselect the C or better. And I'm just going to pick a few of those that are below C or better. So here's the grade code rate for D's, pretty steady. D minuses, almost nothing there. D pluses, and E, which is a failing grade for this institution. Notice the failing grades are pretty steady at about 4.5% to 5%. So again, pretty steady trend. I also want to look at withdrawals. So the W grade, notice that it had been running between 6 and 6.5%, dropped down to about 5.5% for spring of 2018. So that might be something I would want to make note of, that in spring term, I had a drop from about 7% down to about 5.5%. So going back to my spreadsheet, I've included that in here, slight decrease with a drop from 7% to about 5.6% in 17-18. So that then gives me a good set of information about my degree program using the analytics tools. With a spreadsheet, if I go and I print out the spreadsheet, it's been selected so that only the information shows, not the instructions. And I can use this then to include within a report that I would have for my academic program review. Obviously, this information is just a sampling of things for this particular program, but the goal was to illustrate how we can actually grab some information from the strategic dashboards and include them in a process like program review. I hope the information in this video has been helpful, and I hope the spreadsheet is as well. Thanks, and have a great day, and have a good time looking at your data through the Starfish strategic dashboards. Thanks a lot.